So welcome to the Power of Connection. I am Christina, and I'm so excited to have Chris Reimers with us today. I've known him for a little while, but I want you to know him. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm
very excited that you're excited. I've known Chris for a while, and I've been a huge fan. But Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about how did you get here? What did you do before real estate? And tell us where you're at.
So now I've gotten to a point where I really enjoy telling this story because I look at it and I'm like, man, I came a long way. I came from retail. So I was working in retail before I started real estate, but it's not just the fact that I was working in retail, it's where I was working. I was working for Sephora. And when I tell this story, usually women are like, oh my God, you used to work for Sephora. I'm like, yeah, I did. Never did any makeup or anything like that. I did all the operational stuff, which when I look back at my life, I'm always like, wow, there's so many things that I did in my past that have like put me in the perfect position for where I'm at now in real estate. All of the skills that I learned throughout my life. Like I was always going through the motions, kind of not really with like any solid plan in mind or any really rhyme or rhythm behind what I was doing. But then to see where I'm at now, and I'm like, it all came together the way that it was supposed to without me even realizing. So I came from the retail background. I worked at Sephora. I was doing operations. And for me, I felt like I got to a place where I was just really running myself ragged and I really wasn't seeing the reward or feeling the purpose of what I was actually doing on a day-to-day basis. Like I was running the business side because I was doing all the back end stuff behind the scenes. But for me, I'm like, what impact am I really having? Like I'm doing this. Is it really doing much? Am I really like utilizing all of my skills to the best of my ability and really providing something to this world? Or am I just like going through day to day, just like doing?
So you had a greater calling.
Yes, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
That's what I feel for sure.
So when did you know? So keep going. So you were in Sephora, and one day.
Literally, that's how it happened. Literally, one day I woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I went in, I gave my 2 weeks notice.
Without a plan.
Anything, no plan. Which I look back now and I'm like, listen, anybody else that's going to be watching this, you're thinking about getting into real estate, don't do that. It was a very bad idea.
Lesson on what not to do.
Definitely don't do that, because it was a very tough first couple of years in real estate. And it was a very tough couple of first years in real estate. And back then it was I left there in 2015, March of 2015. So going on almost, 8 years now? Yeah, almost 8 years since I've been.
So you didn't have a license, you hadn't studied, you didn't have the foundation.
I had my license. So I got my license in August of 2014. I did absolutely nothing with it because I was so consumed with the job. And that's what got me to actually quit. Because I'm like, I have this license, like, I know it's not a real solid plan, but that is my backup and I'll figure it out. And that's kind of like how I've always done things, which again, isn't necessarily the best way. You really have to plan in order to be successful. But I was always like, oh, you're going to figure it out. So I went and I figured it out, and it took me quite some time. Just based off of the decisions that I made and the amount of resources that I had with my finances, it was scary. It was pretty scary.
So you jumped into real estate, and like, did you the common thread in most people that I speak to is that, people that aren't in real estate think it's going to be like TV. Like you're going to be like, oh, and here's the kitchen and here's the living room, but nobody ever thinks like, where am I going to find these people, or how am I going to learn my craft?
And that's the biggest. So for me, again, having another interesting experience, when I first got in, I quit my job and I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. I had 2 leads within that first month. Both of them I took to see one property each. Both of them put in offers. Both of them got the accepted offer. So for me, I'm like, this is great. This is it. You just go and you meet people. They see one place.
Which is probably the worst thing that could have happened to you, other than keeping you financially going, right?
Absolutely, because that set the expectation, like, this is going to be so easy. And then it went for like months, nothing else happened. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, what happened between the first time and now? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's an interesting transition, because that is the biggest part of the business, really generating the leads, finding the people who are qualified and ready to actually make a purchase or make a sale in real estate. So it's not all like what you see on TV at all.
So you talk about your background in operations, which meant that you were basically a planner that all of a sudden was winging it.
Yes.
So
So
I'm sure, so do you use all of those skills now in your business? What changed you from winging it and getting into real estate to, okay, I'm gonna need a plan? Like, what did you do next?
So that's where a little bit of the ego kicked in, because it's like, oh, look at me, I was running this whole store. I already knew everything down pat. But that's because I had the experience and I had the time to learn and understand how that specific business worked. Because business is business. If you understand how to run a business, you'll understand how to run a business. But when you only have the experience of one place or one specific product, you don't necessarily know how it translates across the board. So you might understand the concept of like, well, here's what it looks like to get the customers in and you can provide the high level experience. That part I didn't have a problem with, but it was more so, well, over here when I was working for the store did the heavy part, which was actually creating the marketing and getting people to want to come here. That's where I was like, oh, I got to figure this out. And there's a lot of competition, because when you think of like a brand like Sephora, there's probably like a handful of other competitors, and the general public knows there's only like a handful of other competitors. But when you get into real estate, everybody under the sun has their real estate license. So you're competing with thousands of other people rather than just a handful of competitors. So now you have to really think of what am I going to do that's going to be a little bit different, that's going to set me apart from the rest of everybody else.
So I'm even thinking before set me apart. Like, how did you get any of it? How did you get to the next step? Did you one day decide I'm going to sit down and make a plan? Like, what'd you do?
No. So what happened for me was, and I kind of coached my agents through this in this kind of specific way now, is you have to try a little bit of everything before you figure out what it is you're good at and you like, and then you can build your plan off of that. I feel like especially in real estate, like a lot of the expectation has been set on, you got to come in, you got to cold call, you got to do expired, you got to do for sale by owners. And I'm like, that's not for everybody. Not everybody has this cookie cutter way of running their business. You have to find out what's actually going to work for you, what you're passionate about, so that you can commit to it. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to do it. And if you're miserable doing it, you're definitely not going to do it. So I don't like to set that expectation of like, here's what you need to do. What you need to do is figure out what you like to do, and then you can implement the plan behind it. So that's what I did for like the first 2 years. I had to figure out, what do you actually like to do? What are you comfortable with? And what can you actually execute at a high level? So I was dabbling in everything. I was doing cold calls, I was doing open houses, door knocking, social media, sphere of influence, until I figured out, oh, well, this is what's working for me. Now I can actually implement a plan to then start to scale my business, rather than just, let's see what happens, which I see a lot of agents do. It's like let's see where my next piece of business is coming from.
Did you fail?
Yeah, a lot. A lot, especially in the beginning.
Tell me about what you failed at, because so I know that you have a team that you coach, and I'll let you tell us more about that and all the people you've coached in the past. But I think what's so important for people that are just getting into real estate, and even for the people that are in it, they see certain people as successful, and they think that those successful people have some kind of magic that they don't have. And it's important that we share our failures so that everybody knows the playing field is equal.
Yeah. 100%.
So what did you fail at? What happened?
Well, for me personally, I guess what I would want to focus more on is in growing my business, especially with the team aspect, being that you brought it up, is I had a lot of experiences where I was looking to grow my team, and I wasn't doing it the right way. And I was focusing on, kind of moving at a pace that didn't make sense. And it was more
Tell me more about that. What do you mean the pace that didn't make sense?
Like really analyzing where the business is at and understanding what you have in terms of value to be able to provide to people on your team. Because I think a lot of people come up with this idea, and this was me in the beginning too, where it's like, oh, I've done a certain amount of deals, I know what I'm doing, so let me start a team. And it's cool in theory, because a lot of people, they want to feel like, oh, I got a team, look at me, I got a team. But if you're not in a position to provide and train and have opportunities for the people on your team, it's going to go south very quick. And you're going to realize that you spend way more time investing into people that are not going to end up staying with you, rather than putting it into your business and continue to grow to a level where you really need to have a team. And then you can actually utilize them in a better way with a stronger purpose. And that was something that I did. I was just like, oh, who wants to be on my team? And it's like, what do you have to offer? It's me. And that was it.
So how did you get there? So you decided you wanted a team, but you weren't really ready for a team. So what made you get to the point where you knew what a team needed and why you needed a team? Like, tell me more.
Well, for me, what I figured out was you have to get your business to a certain point first, because if you're not doing a certain amount of transactions, a certain amount of volume, and you don't have a certain amount of experience, it's going to be hard to really manage other people. Because if you're putting yourself in a position where you're still chasing a specific set of business in order to function, you can't put that time into anybody else. And if you don't have the time to put into anybody else, all you're doing is dragging people along for a pointless ride. And then, it ends where it doesn't really make sense for anybody else. And for me, that's never really my thing. I'm always like, if I'm not a person that could provide you value, I'm cool with moving on and doing so amicably and making sure that, hey, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't the best. I want to make sure that in anything that I do, if I'm committing to working with somebody, if I can't give you my best, I don't want to do it. And if at any point I'm not able to give you my best, I'm honest enough to say, well, I don't think I can provide that for you. So if I can't, I'm excited to see you go on and do other things. By all means, go do it. If I'm ever in a place or if you ever need something, I'm here to, support however I can. That's my
So that's an interesting point that you bring up. So in terms of giving advice, when would somebody want to join a team? And if they wanted to join a team, how would they know if the team leader was ready or not? Like, what are they looking for?
That's a great question. I always say that it depends on the individual. So if somebody wants to join a team, you have to figure out, why do you want to join a team? One of the biggest things that I see with people with joining a team is, and this is even in having a coaching program that I was running, is compensation structure. A lot of times when people are in a position to join a team, they don't necessarily themselves understand the certain value that any given team leader could provide them. Now, I've spoken with agents who have been on different teams with people who are like super, super top producers. And when I think of like the word team leader and people joining a team, I think of somebody who is like actually a leader. Now, in the typical real estate structure, the team leader has to be producing at a certain amount and doing X amount of transactions. I look at that and I look at that and I'm like, it's really difficult if I myself, the team leader, am producing 50 to 100 transactions on my own and then still able to really pour into the other people without it becoming more so like just like an employee-employer relationship. And in real estate, everybody's a 1099. So I don't want to create that environment where it's like, I'm literally your boss and you're like reporting to me. Like, I want you to report to me with whatever it is that you have going on so that I can help support you and help grow your business, rather than it's like, no, employee, do as I say. And
so you're more of a mentor. You feel that mentorship is of supreme importance.
Yes, because I feel like the more that you're able to pour into people and support them on what it is they're looking to accomplish, the higher your retention is going to be. The less likely you're going to have people that want to say, oh, I want to leave you. Now I want to go do my own thing. And that's not a bad thing for anybody that wants to do that. But I think if you create the right environment, people want to stay within that ecosystem because it creates that comfort where they feel like they can thrive and continue to grow their business.
That's so insightful, because, so many people, you hear about a single agent or a team, they don't know why, they don't know how it works. And so each brokerage, however that is, has its own setup of how you can be a team internally, correct?
Yep, 100%.
So when someone's looking to be a part of a team, they're going to look at more than just the leader, right? They're going to look at the opportunity.
To be honest, I think a lot of times most people do focus just on the allure of the leader. It's like, oh, I've heard of this person. It's their name. I want to go join them. And
Yeah.
to me, it's kind of the same mindset of like a brokerage, where it's the brokerage doesn't necessarily make anybody successful. It's what are you specifically looking to do, and what does that individual broker have in terms of resources that fits into what your toolbox looks like. And it's not so much, oh, if I'm going to join this company, I'm going to be successful. And that's how kind of like the general public thinks a lot of the times, where they see certain brands and they're like, oh, you're with this brand, it's cool. There's terrible agents everywhere. There's great agents everywhere. You could be the most unknown mom and pop 2-person brokerage and be the most incredible agent, or you could be at one of the top known agencies and be the worst agent. So it's one of those things where I think a lot of agents get confused by the idea of working with somebody who produces at a high level, because just because somebody produces at a high level doesn't mean that they're a good leader, doesn't mean that they're a good support system, doesn't mean that they know how to, they have good interpersonal skills and they're going to treat you in a way where it's going to allow your business to thrive versus only theirs, and you're just a feeder into their system.
Right. You know, that's true in many industries, because in the past, when I've been in sales related industries, the natural progression of things that ownership will do is take the who's ever doing great at sales and make them the sales manager. So oftentimes
100%.
that sales guy is autonomous. He comes and goes as he pleases. He does his own thing. He can't be bothered with anybody else. And he thinks for some reason it's prestigious to be the leader, but he has no leadership skills. He has no way to manage them. He has none of this. So how do you know if the team leader on this team you're considering joining actually has that, right? Do you go and meet with them? Like, what do you suggest? Because this is really your wheelhouse.
I would suggest, and I think it goes both sides for the team leader and with the agent, because it's very easy. You're in a sales business, so it's very easy to meet with somebody one time and then they charm you over, and then it's like dating too. You meet somebody and then you go on a date with them and they're like, oh, this is the greatest person. Then you're with them for 3 months and you're like, I hate you. This is not what I signed
It makes
up
me
for.
think.
Yeah, so it's tough. I think going on a trial basis, in any scenario, as comfortable as you may feel with somebody, I think on the team leader side and the agent side, it should be like, hey, I would like to join you. I think we should do something, for the next 90 days. Let's see how it works out. Because I think once you approach like that 90-day period, I think the true genuine person of who they are will start to come out on either side, whether it's an agent who's, yeah, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to real estate. And then every day you're like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I watched Netflix today. Or it's a team leader who's like, I'm going to give you all the resources. And then it's like, dude, I call you every single day. You never answer your phone. You never get back to me. So it's like, people will tell you what they want to tell you. Yeah. And it's the same thing with brokerages. I see it happen to people all the time. I talk to a lot of agents, especially for where I'm at now, having conversations. I speak with a lot of newer agents and I'm like, listen, this is exactly what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you they have the best training. Every company has the best training. Every company has the best technology. Every company is going to tell you all the accolades that they have because they're all number one in something. I'm like, it's very easy to manipulate any specific statistic or really kind of hyper focus on any one given statistic to make it seem something that it may not really be, but then also may not be something that is a good fit for you. So it's really more so trial and error when it comes to that kind of thing. It's tough to assess on a very small sample size of interaction though, because I've had people that I've met with that have been like, oh man, I think this person's going to be great. And then after a month and a half, I'm like, oh, you tricked me.
You never know. People let you see the version of them that they want you to see.
Yeah.
Right. That's how that is. So, you're doing all of this with building your team and your coaching. So I see that you're coaching over at Main Street Success, right? You have this whole new thing. Tell me about that.
So that has been a work in progress for quite some time. It should be launching within like the next month or so. I have like everything set, ready to go. We're just planning out more promo. We're going to do a nice launch party to kind of introduce it to the public. But that's also something that I wanted to do to kind of expand my services outside of just, my immediate team. Still be able to touch as many people in the real estate industry as possible, because that's always been my goal. It's been impact and impact on a high level. So The more people that I'm able to influence, train, and help build up in their career, the more people that they can go out and replicate that to, especially when serving the people in the community. I think that's something that's big. And really having an impact on the level of qualified agents in this industry, because there's a lot of people, the threshold to get into real estate is very low. So a lot of the agents we work with really incompetent, and it's not right.
It's a sad thing. And sometimes, you know, I'm a real estate instructor too, and I work with realtors, and sometimes I'm so impressed with the knowledge and the skills and the experience of people. And other times I have to remember that you only need, well, now it's 77 hours of training to get a real estate license.
Yep.
My daughter is a hairstylist, and she's licensed in the state of New York, like we're licensed, only she needed 900 hours to cut your hair instead of 77 hours
insane.
to represent you in the most expensive transaction of your life.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of hokey, right? But at the same time, what I know about you is that you have always gone to the highest level and done whatever it is that you're doing at such a high level. And I applaud you for that. And I just, what, if you had to define success for yourself at this point of your career, what would that look like?
For me, I would say happiness and impact. So actually being happy and satisfied with what you're doing, waking up, like I wake up daily and I'm like, oh, I got to deal with certain people. But in the end, honestly, it's a very rewarding feeling. I feel refreshed every single day that I get to do this. Just the way that my life is set up, the flexibility that I have, even being able to kind of integrate my work life balance and have time for family, certain things that I've been able to have the privilege of doing over the years because of being in this business. To me, that brings me happiness, and that's success to me. It's not really, I know a lot of people equate it to like a dollar amount. There's like, I could, if I were to make, let's say hypothetically speaking, for an example, $50,000 a year, but have all the freedom in the world to do whatever I wanted, and I would do that. Like, I wouldn't need to make millions of dollars in order to feel accomplished. And then also being able to, again, have that impact on other people. Like, I was just at a lunch earlier today, and what I was meeting with an agent that I worked with in the past, and she was telling me, like, listen, I know I haven't done like a crazy amount of business in my few years of being licensed, but if it wasn't for you, like, I don't think I'd be where I'm at. And like something like that for me, I'm like, I'll take that over a check any day, because like I know
That's
that
amazing.
I'm able to influence somebody like that.
So because you're out there and you're doing this and you're pouring into these people and just sending them, kind of keeping them on the right road, was there somebody that did that for you?
I feel like there were a couple of people that played a big role in where I'm
What
at
did
today.
they teach you?
I feel like there's some people that taught me what not to do. And there's other people that showed me what to do. I can't say that I've had like one individual mentor, but there have been quite a few impactful people. And, you know, I tell people this a lot, even the story with you and our relationship that we've had. I feel like you've done a lot for me. And I personally don't think that I would be where I'm at right now if it weren't for you, because as small as it may seem of certain opportunities you've awarded to me or put me in a position to obtain, like I've been able to take that because of you believing in me. I've been able to take that and then go, you know, extend what I've been looking to do in my life.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. I've always seen something in you, a dedication, something. So that's why when we started this, I have you on the top of my list of people to speak to, because I've been studying what makes people successful for many years. It's dedication, it's focus, it's faith, it's consistency. We have to have that commitment to whatever it is that we're going to do. And even if we decide that we're going to change what it is that we do on a daily basis or our field or whatever it is, that commitment that's who we are, and that's going to translate into the next thing.
Yeah.
So when I first saw you and I got to know you, I realized that you possess certain qualities And thank God for giving me that ability to be able to see that. But I know that you've taken any little shred of opportunity and you've maximized it. How do you do it?
Honestly, what I think it is for me, and I try to impact the agents that I work with the same mindset, is you have to look at every single opportunity and think, how can I really make this beneficial? I think a lot of times it ties back to living with purpose. I think when you're really focused and hyper-focused on living with purpose, you understand how every interaction or every opportunity can be a real opportunity for something great. And I think sometimes people try to assess on their own where it's like, I'm not really going to care too much about this. Whatever, I'll get to it when I get to it. But if you're looking at every single opportunity and saying, hey, you never know. You never know. So why not put your all into it? But I think it really does start with having an overall disciplined mindset. Like there's certain things that I do that I'll tell people and they're like, how the hell do you do it? And for me, it's become like so routine that I'm like, I don't know.
What is it?
Your teeth.
What is it that you do?
Like for me, going to the gym consistently, especially at this age, my body hurts all the time.
Oh, please.
But, you know, consistency, praying every day, like certain things where people are like, oh, you really do this? And really just being overall, again, aware of what's going on, every interaction, and really understanding how not only it influences you, but how it could influence another person or other people involved in whatever's going on.
So you're not just floating through life. You're doing everything purposefully. Do you have an actual plan? Did you ever make an actual plan
for where I'm at?
Did you just know it?
I didn't. I honestly, I really didn't make a plan. I mean, I'll do like my goals for the year and stuff like that. But for where I'm at, I think I was watching it might have been like a Gary V video recently, and he was like, oh, plans are stupid. I'm pretty sure it was Gary V. Oh, plans are stupid. Like people want to put 5-year or 10-year plans. And I'm like, yeah, I agree, because I could feel one way today, and then a year from now, I'll be like, never mind, absolutely not. And that shifts everything. But I think if you live by, if you live a certain way, what you're supposed to do, it's going to happen for you.
I think that one of the reasons that the majority of people need to have a plan is different from you, because you seem to live a rather structured existence anyway.
Yeah.
So if somebody was going to plan to go into the real estate business without a daily structure, stuff that they do ritualistically every single day, in your expert opinion, would they be successful?
They definitely can. And honestly, I think most people are like that. Like you said, my first piece of advice would be get yourself either a mentor or a coach. Please, not only do that, listen to them. Because a lot of people, they go off and they hire these people and then they don't listen to them. It's like, if you're going to tell somebody, hey, please teach me how to do real estate, teach me what I should do, and then they tell you, and then you don't do it, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
But
how important is accountability?
Oh, it's huge. I see it with the people that I work with, because like there's certain times where I kind of pull back where I'm like, oh, here's what I want to see you do. And then I'm like, all right, let me not follow up and let me see who comes back to me. Versus where I'm like, here's what you're going to do. And then I'm consistently, hey, are you doing it? Hey, did you do it yet? Hey, did you get it done? And then I'll see the results. So even within that, like there's a lot of me like, let me see where you're at right now, just to kind of
give them enough rope.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, all right, do you really need me to be on top of you like that? And here's going to be my proof as to why I have to be on top of you like that. Like, I don't want to be a micromanager, but if you're going to force me, then I'll do it.
Right. So you've a couple times referred to, and I want to just give anybody watching or listening to this the opportunity. You talk about the people you work with, the people you've worked with. What exactly is your role right now? What are you doing?
I'm the team leader. So I'm still a practicing team leader. And when I say practicing, like I still sell on my own. I still work with buyers, I still work with sellers, still work with landlords and tenants. So I still actively sell, but what I'm looking to do is really just step back from that, and whatever opportunities I'm coming across, give them out to the people that I work with on my team. So create those opportunities, generate those opportunities. For me, again, like I said, it's not about making millions of dollars a year. That could be great. I think in time, it's going to get there consistently. But for me, it's more about the freedom. So if I'm here, I can still generate opportunities just based off of the connections that I have, the relationships that I have, and then I'm able to pass those off to other people and collect a portion of it. Great, because I still have my freedom, and that's something that's very important to me. And
Sounds like it
so
is.
until then, I'm still practicing. I am a team leader, so I am out here consistently training. That's really like the biggest piece of it, support, mentoring all the agents that I work with until I get to that point where I'm fully stepped back. And it's like, that's all I'm doing. So
Yeah.
catch me on Zoom. You got a question? Give me a call.
So you do have an actual plan. It's just not written down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have a plan.
I have an idea in my mind, and I have an idea in my mind as to when that's going to happen. But
How do you measure your pathway, like when you're getting there? Because success is, in my opinion, it's a stairway, right? And it's one step at a time. And so how do you know when you've gotten to those steps? Like, do you have it here?
You know why that's so tough? Because I remember saying this to myself even back like 5 years ago. I'm like, once I make this amount of money, I'll be good. And then you get there and you're like, new problems to have, or new opportunities that you want to come.
First world problems, as they say.
Yeah. So it's like, now you get to that point, you're like, all right, now I have a different plan. But I think, at least for me, what I feel like has been good with that is the fact that as I continue to grow and evolve, I never get to a point where it's just like, I just want to make more money. It's always been, what do I do now? Or what's going to be the next thing that I actually do? Because it's not really about the money. But even for me, like I plan out, like I guess my steps that I look for is I like to set more so monthly goals for what I'm looking to accomplish. And as I'm able to consistently see those goals be reached, then I'm like, all right, I'm on the right track. And then if I go like, let's say 2 months, and then I drop off a month, I'm like, why did I drop off? Okay.
So you really are tracking all of that.
Yeah.
So I would just like to point out for clarity that while you don't have a plan per se, you do have a plan in your head.
Yeah.
And while you have that plan in your head, you're tracking your performance on a monthly basis.
So it's not that I don't have a plan. I think I do have a plan. I think I just don't have a timeline on it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because to be perfectly honest, if I had a timeline, it wouldn't have ever worked. Right? Stuff works in its time.
Yeah.
And you talked a minute ago, and I want to go back to that, to your kind of your circle and your network. And I believe that our connections are all for a reason. So you even said it in the beginning, like I had no idea that what I had done up until now was going to get me to this point.
Yeah.
For most of us, it's very similar, that we find that one day all of the things that we've done that we didn't think were connected were actually connected.
Yep.
And so you do have a plan, and you are tracking it, because most people, I'll tell you right now, aren't tracking what you're tracking.
Yeah.
So you may not think, if it makes you feel better to think you don't have a plan, you keep thinking that, but I would just like to note for the record that you are watching what you're doing. Like, you're not waking up on November 15th and thinking, well, my goal was this, and it's November 15th and I'm nowhere near that. So, oh, well. So you're not leaving it in the hands of fate. You really are paying attention.
Yeah. You know what I kind of see? I kind of see it like going to the gym. Like, it's one thing if, let's say your goal is like, I want abs. You can't say, I want abs by June 1st.
Right.
I don't know if it's gonna happen by June 1st, but I know if I'm consistently doing what I'm supposed to do, the abs are gonna come. And that's kind of like how it is for me. I'm like, I know this is what I want, so let me just do what I need to do consistently and not focus so much on the end, and just focus on being consistent day after day, and that's gonna come.
And that focus and that consistency is part of the ingredients to success. We can't just up one day and say, you know what, this hasn't worked, so I'm going to take another job as a something.
Yeah.
So with all of these things, and I'm a fan, what's your superpower? Do you have one? Did you find it yet?
I haven't.
It's okay. It's okay. You're
So
not,
I
you're not
might
that
have things
old.
that other people may say are superpowers, but I don't think I have any superpowers. Everything that I do, I think anybody could do. It just takes, the
Well,
awareness.
that's a fault that we have as humans, that once we learn our craft so well, we don't understand that everybody else doesn't know it.
Yeah,
So, you know,
that's
so Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if you've ever heard of or read Malcolm Gladwell, but he talks a lot about that. So for the normal work environment, that's like 5 years. It's like 5 years worth of stuff. So if you worked more than 9 to 5 consistently, like at the 5 year point, you should have a certain level of expertise.
Yeah.
Some people can speed that up, and some people work part-time and they don't necessarily have that. And who's to say that Malcolm Gladwell knows everything, but he's the only one that's paid attention to it. So, well, whatever. Anyway, we all achieve a certain level of accomplishment or of understanding of what it is that we're trying to do. But it's human nature for us to think that other people understand that too, and they don't. Which kind of makes it hard for the next thing is, you're an educator. How do you take this elaborate pile of stuff that to be the real estate business and bring it? So Albert Einstein, I think, is the one that said, in order to tell it simply, you have to know it. Yeah. Very specifically, you have to know something well. How do you do that?
It's just breaking down all the different sectors of the business and then chopping it up into their own individual piece. And then I guess teaching and instructing by that. Just like in any textbook, you have like this chapter's on this chapter's on that. You kind of guide people through that way, because everything can be a very drawn out and long topic. So you just have to figure out, all right, in order to kind of condense it, just to keep it generalized, what are the key factors that you need for each given area?
And you simplify it, and that's amazing because you understand it really well.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. So other than the people that you train and that you work with on a daily basis, in your regular life, are you a little bit choosy with the people that you give your time to?
100%.
How does that work for you?
100%. And I am very big on like my mindset and energy, and anybody that's going to drain me, I'm like, I can't do it. Like, you could be the nicest person, you could have the best intentions, but if you're going to drain me, I can't do it, because I understand that I have so much that I have to give to other people that I can't afford to jeopardize losing what I have, my energy, my resources, my time, to then feed into negative nonsense. Plus, that's also going to take away from like what I'm trying to do personally for myself. I'm like, can't do it. I'm very choosy.
That's good. That's good. I mean, obviously it works for you. Has any particular thing, like, you're very purposeful, you're very mindful, you're very introspective. I think you have a certain, beyond your years, understanding of what makes you tick. Was there any particular circumstance that really made you stop and think that you wanted more out of life?
I don't know what it was specifically, but it was definitely when I was working at Sephora. I don't know if it was, I think it was just like a culmination of everything that I was experiencing when I was working there. And, not to say that there aren't other people that were doing their job well, but I compared myself a lot to my peers, and I'm like, I feel like I do way more than like a lot of you, and you guys complain and you guys can't execute. And I'm like, what's the purpose of this? And then to look at like other people that were part of leadership, and I'm like, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, and I'm doing like way better than you. But it's not even like I'm doing way better than you, I'm so much better. But it's like, if you're supposed to be my superior, why are you handling certain situations the way that you are? And like, I don't understand. So for me, it was just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I need to be a little bit more control of what's going on in my life, and not have too many outside influences. And I think that's ultimately what brought me here.
And so how has that served you, that just that being fussier or controlling your surroundings? Do you feel that that's definitely served you well?
Yeah, 100%, because it allows me to be able to have what the level of impact that I want to have.
I love that you just keep going back to impact and purpose, and I think that that's so important. You're striving to help pour into others, which shows your giving spirit, which is also a common trait in the people that have achieved success, right? There's a give back component. There's a let's leave the world a better place than I found it. So as an educator and as somebody who coaches and trains, what is it that you do to stay on top of your game? Like, how do you keep learning? Because I know, as somebody that is an educator, I am also the hungriest student. I'm always reading and looking.
Yep.
What is it that you're doing to be on top of your game in this role?
That's exactly it. I still go to trainings. I watch like a lot of videos of other people who are in a similar role at maybe at a higher level, and really just trying to analyze, like, okay, what are you doing that's a little bit different? What are the things that I'm watching, that I'm seeing from my perspective, that I like, so that I can kind of take and make my own.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So if somebody is in this field or in any other field, and they want to be the best they can be, what advice would you give them?
Be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. That's it. Whatever it is that you're doing, just be consistent in learning, developing your skills, whatever it is, just continue to be consistent. The more that you're consistent, you'll build your discipline, and with your discipline, you're going to get to your results.
Incredible. I've always enjoyed being around you and speaking to you, and I'm glad to have gotten to know you. Is there anything that's really important that you want to share that I didn't ask you?
No. The only thing that I will say is, honestly, I think what we don't see enough of in just business in general, especially in real estate, is just be good to people. I think the more that you're good to people, the more you're going to see your success.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Well, Chris Reimers, I'm a fan. It was great to have you. I thank you so much for your insight, and we'll see you soon on The Power.
Thank you.